Carmen and Curtis.
Hi. Hello.
Josh. Oh my God, I just want to stay here and talk to all of you, but we have things to do. Okay, everyone, just to give you a quick idea of what is going to happen, we're going to start with a talk from Judith, and then, oh, those of you that want to come in, get in here. Those of you that want to listen from outside, that's totally fine, but we're going to get this show on the road. Rosemary, that's not like a late performance. Let's see. You're wearing masks. You're good, good, good. Speakers, when you come up to speak, you can take your masks off. The way that it's going to happen is Rosemary's dear friend Judith is going to give a talk, followed by Stan, followed by me, followed by a song by Jacques, and then an open mic. And we're going to ask you to come up here to speak. Be careful of the steps. There's no railing. And I don't know, maybe you had 5 glasses of wine before you came in. I don't know. Okay, are we ready, Judith?
I'm ready.
Where's Padre? Oh, hi, Dad. Okay.
Thank you, Katja. It is an honor for me to be able to give some insights about our very dear friend. In the words of Mary Oliver, when death comes like the hungry bear in autumn, when death comes and takes all the bright coins from his purse to buy me and snaps the purse shut, when death comes like the measles pox, when death comes like an iceberg between the shoulder blades, I want to step through the door full of curiosity, wondering, what is it going to be like, that cottage of darkness? And therefore, I look upon everything as a brotherhood and a sisterhood. And I look upon time as no more than an idea. And I consider eternity as another possibility. And I think of each life as a flower, as common as a field daisy, and as singular. And each name as comfortable music in the mouth, tending, as all music does, towards silence. And each body a lion of courage and something precious as the earth. And when it's over, I want to say, all my life, I was a bride married to amazement. I was the bridegroom taking the world into my arms. When it's over, I don't want to wonder if I have made of my life something particular and real. I don't want to find myself sighing and frightened or full of argument. I don't want to end up having simply visited this world. Rose Mary Crawford, who I call the Queen of Dixon, lived every moment of her 87 years as, quote, a bride married to amazement, as a bridegroom taking the world into her arms. There was no need to wonder if, quote, she had made of her life something particular and real. It was as real as and as impactful as every loaf she ever baked, every song she ever sang, every poem ever written, every deep and loving human interaction that changed our lives. Her amazement was contagious and encouraged us to embrace the world as well. And while perhaps, especially in her waning days, she might have found herself sighing and frightened and even full of argument, Rosemary Crawford certainly did not end up simply having visited this world. She took us and she took on the world with her arms outstretched, often holding in those arms a fresh baked bread or a lasagna or a freshly crafted ristra or a poem to be gifted as she hugged us close. She cavorted with elves and fairies, sang through her troubles, and created a home with Stan from this sacred New Mexico earth. She saw everything as a brotherhood and sisterhood, and we all bear the marks of her intense and encompassing love. Rosemary was born in 1933 in Melbourne, Australia, and she grew up in Sydney, Australia. She attended a very proper girls' school where I'm certain she was the source of much mischief. An excellent writer from a young age, Rosemary did not attend college, but immediately began to work for the Sydney Morning Herald as a journalist, specializing in publicity journalism. She took those skills to London, and she managed to talk herself into a position at the Rank organization, a publicity agency, by pretending to be male on her application. Can't you see her now? Long-legged and lovely, flashing her ever-present smile while interviewing the likes of Frank Sinatra, Marlon Brando, Elizabeth Taylor, Sophia Loren, and her soon-to-be good friend, Sir Michael Caine. Her dream job took her to Italy and eventually to Greece. Where else would a statuesque demigoddess meet a demigod writer from the University of Chicago than in Crete? They met in June of 1967, and by December they were married. Together, they went on to Dublin, where their son Adam was born, and then to San Francisco before arriving in Dixon in 1969. As Katya, who was born in Embudo in 1970, has confided, quote, Rosemary thought Dixon was just like Greece, but without the ocean. But there was always the Rio Penasco winding through their property. And Rosemary would spend decades sitting on the rocks, placing her feet in the water and communing with any trout that happened to swim by. Together with Stan, Rosemary worked hard to turn El Bosque garlic into a model sustainable farm. Rosemary became known as the Garlic Lady, selling garlic and ristras along with uplifting advice at farmers markets in Taos and Santa Fe. If you were lucky enough to have been a worker on the Crawfords farm, you know that you were greeted with fresh baked bread when you arrived to work in the morning, and homemade lasagna, often laced with zucchini, for the midday meal. The hours of a farmer are grueling, but Rosemary sang and tap danced through it all. While working on the family farm, she found time to use her considerable writing skills to write and then direct children's plays. Her considerable work was performed in Dixon, Peñasco, Española, Taos, and Las Cruces, often sponsored by the New Mexico Division for the Arts. Her students universally adored her, and many of you, I believe, her beloved elves and fairies, were participants in things such as Never Say Never, or The Mad King of Chalupa, or The Wicked Witch and the Tickle Monster, or You Gotta Have a Dream. Rosemary inherently understood the power of young people's theater to unlock the potential and provide confidence to even the most disaffected student. I met Rosemary soon after I was hired as the drama teacher for Taos High School in 1977. I had just completed a 3-month residency creating a bilingual play with graduating seniors in Penasco. And we immediately bonded over theater, students, and life in northern New Mexico. We went on to spend the next many, many years together, acting and directing, raising our children, and sharing our lives. Rosemary was not only a gifted writer and director, but a talented actress as well. She had the amazing ability to completely inhabit a character, bringing that character into her entire being. I had the privilege of directing Rosemary in a Taos Community Theater production of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest in 1980s. I can still see her as Nurse Ratched, standing there with her arms folded at the door. Nurse Ratched put her foot down and brooked no discussion. And I can see where tiny remnants of head nurse remained with Rosemary for the rest of her life. She loved our production of Mad Woman of Chaillot, where she got to say quite a few outrageous statements in a perfectly acceptable voice. My favorite, however, was The Belle of Amherst, the story of Emily Dickinson, where I saw Rosemary literally morph into the great poetess, in love with language, secluded in her New England attic. The soul selects her own society and shuts the door, Dickinson wrote. I was glad to be included on the inside, living with Rosemary in that attic of dreams. Rosemary was a beloved member of the Taos theater community, often driving nightly from Dixon for rehearsals after a long day at the farm. She starred in Night Mother, I Rise in Flames, Called the Phoenix, Road to Mecca, and many other productions, all the while bringing her own writings for children to the stage. She twice won the Santa Fe Community Theater competition for short plays for her play, Benchwarmers. She wrote endless journals and poems for children, some of which have been collected and published as a book, Rebels, by Katya and her sister Zita. Most importantly, she inspired so many of us today to be our best selves. Each body, quote, a lion of courage, something precious to the earth. Rosemary gave so many of us permission to be who we really are. The most magical day that I ever spent with Rosemary was not in the theater, but right here in Dixon. Let's hike up to Ra's Cave, she said. Some of you might remember, Ra's Cave was located not far from here along the Rio Grande. Ra had discovered a cave with some crystals and had enhanced the space with additional semi-precious gems, which were embedded in the walls. After what was for me, a pretty arduous hike up the side of a mountain, we opened the door to a cave shining with prisms of light. I was a bride married to amazement. I was the bridegroom taking the world into my arms. At that moment, Rosemary burst into song. And for the next 2 hours, she sang and danced through the cave, belting out the words to every Broadway musical she'd ever heard. This was her prayer, an entrance into the Holy of Holies. And the melodies were everything from Rodgers and Hammerstein to Stephen Sondheim. I can see her in the light, holding that world in her arms. Alzheimer's is a particularly cruel disease. It steals words, then thoughts, then memories, the very tools of a writer. No wonder Rosemary often seemed angry and frustrated as she made her way through the fog of this disease. But she remained Rosemary at her core, never losing her sense of humor and her sharp observations about the world around her. In the few times that I was able to visit her in Santa Fe, she had no idea of who I was, even though the poster of the Belle of Amherst with my name as director was posted right by her bed. I took her out to my car, turned on the satellite radio station to On Broadway, and we sat and sang. She still knew all the words. Finally, on January 15th, 2021, death came, the hungry bear in autumn. Rosemary had looked that bear in the eye before, with the death of her beloved mother, Alice Wilton Klapake, and her brother, John Wilton, in Australia. She, of course, is survived by her immediate family, her husband, Stanley Crawford, and their two children, Katya and Adam. And they all have tales to tell. Rosemary is also survived by her half-sister Zita and her half-brother Dan in Australia. And right after this service, we will all gather around, first with an open mic and then with food prepared in her honor. She didn't cook for this one. And share Rosemary stories. Each one of these stories, a crystal, reflecting the prism of our lives. We all know there can be no evening long enough to tell all the tales that we all have to tell. Death came, as it will come for all of us, like the measles pox, like an iceberg between the shoulder blades. And Rosemary knew it was time to gracefully step into death's carriage. The words to this final poem are by Emily Dickinson. But for me, and I'm sure for many of you, the voice is that of Rosemary Crawford. Because I could not stop for death. Because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. The carriage held but just ourselves and immortality. We slowly drove, he knew no haste, and I had put away my labor and my leisure too for his civility. We passed the school where children strove at recess in the ring. We passed the fields of gazing grain. We passed the setting sun, or rather he passed us. The dews drew quivering and chill, for only gossamer my gown, my tippet only tulle. We passed before a house that seemed a swelling of the ground. The roof was scarcely visible, the cornice in the ground. Since then, 'tis centuries, and yet feels shorter than the day. I first surmised the horses' heads were turned towards eternity. Rosemary Crawford, thank you for sharing your open arms with all of us. We love you. So I'd like to ask Stan to come up.
That was magnificent, Judith. Thank you. Thank you for all coming. And I must say,
There's a slight difference in height between myself and Stan.
anyway, thank you, Judith, for saying so much. It was just quite wonderful. Adam and Kate for organizing this. The others. Again, and thank you all for coming. This is wonderful. I have just a few words to say. And to begin with, some marriages are just 1 + 1 = 2. In others, partners unlock possibilities in each other that would remain dormant if they did not join together. I know that Rosemary released all kinds of possibilities in me, and I like to think that I helped release the whole flowering in her. Without each other, we might well not been the extraordinary possibilities that emerged from us 2 wonderful children, of course, the farm, and the strings of children's plays and poems and performances, no adobe house built without us, and all the rest. Judith talked about her plays that were performed from here all the way to Las Cruces. And even Holly Haas still has workshops using her plays in this very space. And of course, again, as Judith said, she cooked for the multitudes. I used to joke that in the event of nuclear war, Rosemary would do the cooking. She made thousands of wreaths for the studio tour, thousands of garlic bunches, which have gone all over the country. She wrapped a gazillion bunches of flowers of all kinds. She presided over the farmers markets, stands in Taos and Santa Fe year after year. She taught me how to be a public person. And she inspired the best book I've ever written. Rosemary is not one to be resting in peace. Somewhere she's probably still writing, still directing, still cooking, still pushing to make things better and more interesting. I know she's still pushing me and Adam and Kate. Thank you.
So Kate Katja, would you come up?
Yes, thank you, Judith. I love seeing all of your faces, and I love seeing you all on Zoom. We've waited a long day for this, a long time for this. I did write a script in case I broke down, which you never know when that's going to happen. But I'd like to just, I don't know, start. When Adam and I were still kids, Rosemary was taking tap dance lessons from Shell. And we didn't have an even floor in our house with a mud packed floor in the living room and wobbly bricks in the kitchen and carpet in the bedroom. So she took the amazing, the opportunity to practice on the amazingly beautiful flat floors of Safeway when we went grocery shopping. And Adam and I would be like 10 paces behind, sort of hiding behind boxes of cereals, like, I wonder how they make grape nuts. And, but you couldn't get away from her. Darling, I've forgotten the baking soda, grab a box. And she would just, with her expressive hands, throw things into the cart, tapping away. Rosemary was who she was, always, unapologetically. And I would describe that as being brilliant, curious, courageous, affectionate, original. I mean, the list goes on. And as a mother, she was absolutely the best. I mean, she nurtured us with so much unconditional love and interest in our growing minds, and some really unfortunate concoctions like goat's milk mixed with blackstrap molasses, chocolate milk. That was for calcium and for iron. And then fresh squeezed orange juice mixed with nutritional yeast for vitamin B and vitamin C. She made us everything. She made our clothes, she made our meals. She wrote poems for us. She read to us at night. She'd bring in a plate of beautifully sliced apple, and we would eat apple as she read to us. And she wrote us poems. And this one she said over and over again, every time Adam walked through the door later in life. Anyone who knows it's welcome to say it too. Adamaki Puzzlepot was very nearly 4 when he decided that he'd got a name he'd rather not have use of anymore. The name, he said, is Adam, as he waddled through the door. Don't ever call me Puzzlepot, never anymore. She was our diehard advocate, our North Arrow, our lighthouse, our drinking well for love, advice, and accountability. Yeah, she held us accountable and turned us into pretty good people through her rosemary laws to live by. 1, friendship is everything. So true. I don't know ever you without friends. I am so blessed. And so is she. Live in the day, for tomorrow you could be hit by a bus. Now, Adam and I were pretty confused about this growing up in Dixon. But we did get the gist of it. And when I moved to Albuquerque and the rapid ride went right by, the architecture building, and I nearly got hit by a bus multiple times. Boredom is a deficiency of the imagination. Nurture curiosity. Never lose your sense of humor. I don't think that's possible for us. I mean, she's in our genes. Be kind to all living things and give a damn. Apathy, she couldn't relate to. Don't be a bastard, be a shining star. She taught Adam and I to pay really deep attention to the world around us and to bear witness to beauty every single day, particularly when things just seem like unbearable, like right now with school shootings and pandemics and hate crimes, with the climate crisis. It's just, she would feel things, really deeply, anger and pain. But at the same time, she would be able to acknowledge and appreciate the golden light on the hills and the naked bodies of the winter trees and Tesora's velvet ears and the weight of a stone in her hand. In her world, magic was real. And when you were around her, you felt it too. It was really impossible to see the world the same way after spending time with Rosemary. One fall weekend, I was driving her over to see Adam and Rachel. And it was just one of those really spectacular Dixon days. The sky was ominous with storm clouds, so dark. But the light was peeking through and it was illuminating the tops of the cottonwood trees, and they were just a shimmer of gold. And she just threw her arms out and said, "Don't you just adore little Dix?" Australians abbreviate everything, right, you Australians? And sometimes there's really disastrous, or in this case, hilarious results. Needless to say, Dixon has been little Dix ever since. Adam and I took her everywhere. We didn't hide her or her disease. And everywhere we went, people fell in love with her. There were a couple of exceptions. There was the guy in the antique store who she asked if he was retired or retarded. He didn't like her. And She also tried to eat his jar of marbles, but and there was the woman in Walmart whose baby she wanted to steal. But everyone else really, really loved Rosemary. And I like to take her to this coffee shop in Albuquerque called Little Bear. And I would pick her up, and on the way, she would read all the billboards to the coffee shop. Mattress firm. Oh, I love a firm mattress. Ring bell. Ron Bell. What a vile looking creature. And so we get to Little Bear, and she says, Little Bear, adorable. So we walk into the coffee shop, and we're met with this guy behind the counter is a young hipster with this beautiful full brown beard and giant brown eyes. And she looks at him and she asks, are you Little Bear? And he greets her with kind of this slow smile and asks what we want to drink. And I said, Mom, go get a table. I'll bring the drinks over. And as she's walking away, she pulls out one of the songs from one of her plays. I think it was The Wicked Witch and the Tickle Monster. Don't be sad, sad bear. You got a new friend. You should be glad, sad bear, to have a brand new friend. She serenaded everyone. All those years she wished she could sing. I mean, Judith says she sang in Ross Cave, but we had this thing where two things we would say about singing. One is that we would take years off our life to be able to sing. I'm gonna do it again, so watch out. And two, when we did, somewhere birds were falling from the sky. But after Little Bear, we went to this shop that had just opened down the street, and it was run by 3 generations of women. And we walked in and she said, oh my God, you're divine. Look at that gorgeous hair. You're like mermaids in the desert. A, you're adorable. B, you're so beautiful. C, you're a cutie full of charms. They wanted her to stay forever. I mean, why wouldn't you? There were heartbreakingly difficult times too, lots of them, when she seemed inconsolable and she would get caught in this whirl of like paranoia and just desperation. But with the gentleness, and she still kept her creativity, mind you, but you could pull her out of it. And you know, Stan would call me when she was threatening suicide and put me on the phone. And I'd say, Mom, you are my favorite person in the whole history of the universe times a million. I can't live without you. And she would say, well, fucking try. And then I would say, Mom, you always say we're the same person. So can you tell us how we're gonna die? And she'd say, I'm gonna lather myself in butter and wait for the coyotes on the mesa. And I'd say, Mom, lucky coyotes. Rosemary, lathered in butter for afternoon tea. Can't we just write a play about it instead? She was equally creative with all her methods of suicide. And she said, I'm just gonna jam a knife into a hole in the adobe and hurl myself into it. And I would say, Mom, Shakespeare would be so proud, but all of our knives are dull. Do you think I could just get you a massage instead? And she'd eventually come back, you know, feeling like adorable and tired. Another one was, I drowned myself in the river, but we're having a fucking drought. If there's a silver lining in any of this hell that is Alzheimer's, it's that Adam and I have become even closer than we were before. This is really gonna get me. We both wanted a child, but it didn't happen. I blame Los Alamos. On his birthday, Adam said, Mom, can you believe I'm 52? She shook her head. How old are you? I asked. In an adorable voice, which we have on video, she said, I'm 2. I get younger as I get older. With our baby mom, we were able to return to her what she gave to us: patience, unconditional love, secret ice creams, baths, stories, meals, and the worrying that comes with being a parent. She taught us a whole other unimaginable dimension about what it means to love. Adam and I confided in each other, every day, sharing stories, talking about our pain and this sort of impending grief that we knew was coming. Things weren't going to get better, our fears and our dreams. But most of all, we talked about her and stories. I'd call him and say, I took a 2-hour nap with Rosemary today. She woke up before me and I could feel her staring at me, like her eyes just like boring into me. And I said, it's okay, Mom. It's just me and I'm temporarily bald from chemotherapy. I open my eyes and she's up on her elbow and she says, ha! And I thought I was in bed with Yul Brenner. Sorry to disappoint you, Mom. That closeness has continued. I love you, Adam, so much. And Adam and I love all of you. We are so grateful for our amazing friends and family that helped us through this journey. My girlfriends and her girlfriends that supported and loved us to bits. The farm boys who enchanted her and kept her on her toes. My cousins Maggie in Australia and Lynn in Seal Beach, who really stepped in as a mom when I was missing my own so much. And my sister, my aunt, I have so many sisters. My aunt Zita in Australia, who would fly out for months to take care of Rosemary, and who I speak to all the time. She's just an extension of us. Rosemary's amazing angel caretakers, Carmen and Curtis, who just showered her in so much love. And our incredible cousins, the Pullmans, who made that care possible. Saying thank you is such an insufficient word to express our gratitude for demonstrating such generosity, kindness, and the best of humanity. It takes a village, and we have an awesome one. The last time I saw my mom was 2 months before she died, and I hadn't seen her in 8 months, and I was completely desperate. I did speak to her on the phone every day, but she kept asking where my face was. And I called Carmen and Curtis, and I said, can I please just come over and sneak in? I took a rapid COVID test. I'm negative. I'll come into the side gate. I just have to see her. I didn't even know if she would recognize me. Well, Curtis brought her out, and she was tiny and sort of like unsteady on her feet. But her eyes really sparkled still over this mask that was falling off her face. And she saw me, and her eyes narrowed. You all know what that's like. She zones in. She looked at me and she said, "That's mine!" She raced towards me, Curtis in tow. Yes, Mom, I'm yours, always and forever. Thank you.
I'm sure Rosemary has a comment about all of this. So this is an open mic moment, except first I have Jacques coming up to sing. And she really loved to hear Jacques sing.
say thank you, Tessa, for inviting me, but actually I invited myself.
Let's say Rosemary invited you.
Yeah, this is just a real simple song. It's very long. Bien sûr, nous eûmes des orages, 20 ans d'amour, c'est l'amour folle. 1000 fois tu pris ton bagage, 1000 fois tu pris ton envol. Et chaque meuble se souvient, dans cette chambre sans berceau, des éclats de vieille tempête. Plus rien ne ressemblait à rien, t'avais perdu le goût de l'eau, et moi celui de la conquête. Oh mon amour, mon doux, mon tendre, mon merveilleux amour, de l'aube claire jusqu'à la fin du jour, je t'aime encore, tu sais, je t'aime. Moi je sais tous tes sortilèges, tu sais tous mes envoûtements. Tu m'as gardé de piège en piège, je t'ai perdu de temps en temps. Bien sûr, tu pris quelques amants, il fallait bien passer le temps, il faut bien que le corps exulte. Finalement, il nous fallut bien du talent pour être vieux sans être adulte. Oh mon amour, mon doux, mon tendre, mon merveilleux amour, de l'aube claire jusqu'à la fin du jour, je t'aime encore, tu sais, je t'aime. Et plus le temps nous fait cortège, et plus le temps nous fait tourment, mais n'est-ce pas le pire piège que de vivre en paix pour des amants? Bien sûr, tu pleures un peu moins tôt, je me déchire un peu plus tard, nous protégeons moins nos mystères. On se méfie du fil de l'eau, on se méfie de le hasard, mais c'est toujours la tendre guerre. Oh mon amour, mon doux, mon tendre, mon merveilleux amour, de l'aube claire jusqu'à la fin du jour, je t'aime encore, tu sais, je t'aime.
So this is a moment that you get to share. And I can't know everyone by name, but if you raise your hand, I'll say, you over there, come on up. And please introduce yourself when you come up so that we all know your name.
Apparently that's my name. Hi, everybody. I'm going to keep it short and sweet, just a couple of things to say. I tell a story of my life, and it doesn't exist without the Crawfords. Stan and Rosemary met my parents, Tom and Connie, in the late 60s in Northern California. Adam was born, Kiva was born in California, my big sister. My parents landed in Dixon and somehow sent a snail mail to Stan and Rosemary and said, you should check out Dixon. And they did. Both of our families moved here right about the same time. Katya was born in September 1970, and I was born in December of 1970, so I've actually known her since the day I was born. So Rosemary is kind of my mom too. She was I was lucky enough to be in the classes that she did those wonderful plays at Dixon. I'm a horrible actor and even a worse singer, and she still let me do the productions. So I can break out into "You must never say never" anytime you need, but you don't want me to. I remember all the words to all of those plays. The last time I saw Rosemary, she sat down with me. She couldn't get over how handsome my husband was. And then she looked at me and she said, "You look just like Jessie Duckworth." And I said, "That's good, because I am Jessie Duckworth." She'd only known me 50 years, so it's a good thing I look just like me. Anyway, she was amazing. The Crawford family is my favorites, and I'm so glad to be a part of this today, so thank you.
Do I see a wildly raised hand over there? Please come up.
Hello, good afternoon. Hey guys. I don't really have too much to say. I just wanted to say, when my wife came up from Mexico, she never can remember anybody's names in the whole community. You know, she's never, names are like always whatever. So we always had a nickname for everybody. And Rosemary was always coming to the cafe, even before the cafe. And so she put lovely, because to Rosemary, everything was lovely. And she'd come in and she'd say, "Oh, that's just lovely. Oh, that's just lovely." And anyways, I've known her since I can remember, and we're all gonna miss her a lot. And even for like, I know it was hard for the family in the end, but she was such a social person that when she come into the cafe, she might have been lost, she might have been whatever, but she was happy with everybody. She always came in, she was singing, she was happy until the very end, and we all are gonna miss her happiness. Thanks.
As Rosemary would say, lovely. A hand. Do I see a hand? Come on up.
I also have to raise this mic up here. Hello. All right. My name is Emmett. I'm the son of Kiva Moulton here. I've known Rosemary since I was a baby. Literally born. I think was she the day I was born? And she was it was a long time. I have many memories being at her house, eating wonderful cookies and just like the best little sugar cookies. I'd always go over and she'd have like this tin can of cookies. That was the best thing ever when you're a kid. But what I wanted to share was later on, the last time I saw her and the last couple times that I saw her, she, I'd always go with my mom. And if you can't tell, I'm 6'3" here, so I'm pretty tall. And she would always go, "Is that your son? He's gotten so tall." It's just the best thing every time to be reminded that I'm tall by her, because she would just get so excited about it. She's like, "Whoa!" And then come in for a great deep hug. I miss her dearly. Thank you all. Thank you.
And a wildly raised hand. Do I see but in the back there?
Hello, everybody. I'm Faith, another daughter of Rosemary. I love that woman so much. She always told stories so well. And she would always tell the story of how she and my mom, Elsica, met walking down a bosky road. They were both pregnant. And she said that Katya and I always be best friends before we ever met. And she was right about that. And I got a second mom too, growing up in Obrowski Road. I think I spent as much time at the Crawfords as they spent at my house. And all those little things you take for granted when you're a kid, right? The apples. We were only allowed slices of apples after we brushed our teeth for story time. She cast us in all of her wonderful plays. I too am terrible at acting, Jesse. I'm trembling as I'm on the stage right now, but somehow she brought out the Broadway singer and the courage and the love for life and enthusiasm. She cast me as the royal cook. And I think you were my queen. You always have been. And I still love baking to this day. I was always inspired by her amazing cookies and cakes. She remembered everybody's birthday every day. And she would make a cake for them too, always making you feel like you were the most special person in the world at that moment. And to her, you were. That was the truth. So from Rosemary, I tried to take a recipe for life, to always follow a healthy and nutritious path. To add lots of love, extra flavor, plenty of drama, lots of joy, and always 5 kisses, because 1 was never enough. So I love you all. I love Rosemary, and may her love live on in all of us, and may her joy shine over Dixon and Obrowski Road forever.
Okay, I need to see a wildly raising hand. There you go. Come on up.
Another daughter, proudly wearing one of Rosemary's fashions. Okay. Hello, lovely people. So one of her closet clean outs, she and I were very similar size, height, and shoes. And so we often exchanged clothes and would recommend things. And so one time when she was cleaning out her closet, she asked me to please take something out of the closet. And so I took 3 dresses. She had an incredibly tiny waist and very large breasts. So they don't actually fit, but I kept a few of them. And so yes, this is in honor of Rosemary. So I am also one of the other daughters. I've known Rosemary since I was 6 months old. Adam and I grew up together. And looking at the slideshow, I feel so honored and privileged to have traveled to Australia, and I met her mom and spent time with her sister and her brother and her nieces and nephews, and this huge global family that is Rosemary's. I have the Sliced Apple Stories. I think I'm a reader because of Rosemary. She basically fed us books. And so the law of there's no reason to be bored because there's always a book to read. And so I have memories of Adam and I kind of locked in our little room, tiny rooms with so many bookshelves, and just reading and reading and reading and reading and reading and reading. And she just fed us all the right books to keep us going. My first gift that I remember in my own memory from a birthday party is given by Adam, wrapped in a paper towel, and it was a book. And so I thank Rosemary for that. I'm sure, I know my love of reading is from her. Yeah, my life is full because of Rosemary, and I love Adam and Kate so much, and the world of Rosemary. My mask is sopping because of all of these memories and beautiful images. And so thank you, Stan, for sharing. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all this. I love Rosemary. And yes, as Faith said, she'll live forever with us, and she's enriched us more than we will ever know. So thank you.
It's what my kids used to call Rosemary books, right? And there was no birthday without Rosemary books, of course. Okay, standing by the back door.
say for myself, but my daughter Sienna wanted me to read something. Rosemary was one of Sienna's grandmothers that she loved. She was also, again, a mother to me. This is what Sienna wrote. Every year, Rosemary would write a poem for me in my birthday card. I just turned 23 3 days ago, and I remembered back to my 8th birthday. She said, 8 is the best year because 8 is great. And I do remember she sang a song for her, and every year on her birthday, she would make up a song and teach Sienna the lines, and we'd sing it for, I don't know, half an hour or something. There are so many good memories with Rosemary. She always had something fun up her sleeve. Toys and frogs and lizards lived in her bathroom windowsill for me to befriend and play with. Every time we went over to Rosemary's house when Sienna was a baby and a toddler, especially when she was a toddler, she'd run into the bathroom and grab all the toys for little lizards and frogs, and we would bring them, this is me speaking, we would bring them to her bed, and Sienna would just play with them while Rosemary and I chatted. And to this day, I have 3 colorful, painted, striped and spotted frogs on my bathroom on the toilet in memory of Rosemary. She had a paper mache fruits and vegetables that we could not eat except for with our eyes because they looked more colorful than real food. Her room was always beautiful in the summer when her glass doors were open to the grassy yard that led to a pond and rows of growing garlic. My mom and I would lay with Rosemary on top of her made bed, and they would catch up and chat while I observed her balancing fork sculpture with awe. So many mysterious objects full of magic lived at Rosemary's house. My friend Emmett often accompanied me, and when we were toddlers, we would bounce on the pillowy bed until I knocked him over. Sienna was a bruiser.
Yes, yes.
Emmett was tiny. And I remember Rosemary just loving it. She just loved to see the little kids jumping all over her bed. I mean, she just got such a kick out of it. He is now a good foot taller than me. We would walk around her property with her and her dogs up to the hidden studio that made me envision a peaceful studio for myself in the future. Rosemary was creative and full of ideas. She came to Dixon Elementary School to teach us a play she had written. She taught us that we are all writers and we have the capability to make great works of art. Mom and Allison Watt, made snake sizzler costumes of shiny silver fabric for me, the river snake, and Soph, Rachel, aka Soph, the rattler. Rosemary told us to dance expressively and hiss to our heart's delight. She was all for expression. She was the most joyful singer and I love that she spread her contagious creativity and talent everywhere she went. She was a long-lasting impression on me that I can be who I want, and I am the beholder of my work and my life. Above all, my favorite memory of Rosemary is through taste and the way she made her way to my heart through her warm scones, clotted cream, she put curdled, but I think she means clotted, and strawberry jam. And cake of any kind reminds me of those sweet afternoons as our car bumbled down her driveway into the summertime, and Rosemary greeting us at the end of her stone path, where she would lead us inside to all her good smells. All of those walks down to the river afterward were so joyous and carefree. Just Rosemary, my mom, and me. I love you so much, and I am so very happy that you were in my life, Sienna. I met Rosemary when I was about 18, and the first day I met her, she befriended me and sat me down and showed me all the baby pictures of Adam and Katya. Shortly after meeting her, Adam and Kiva went to Australia, and I tagged along in the car. After we dropped them off, I was sad, and she took me and made a girls' day out of it and took me to lunch, and she just wanted to get to know me, and I just she was so fun, and she's always just been so supportive of me. I also feel like she was my other mom. She's been very influential in my life. I have so many memories. It was hard for me to think of everything I wanted to say, but she made me feel. She always tried to push me out of my comfort zone. I hate the camera on me. And so she was always trying to take photos and make me feel natural. She would forced me to read her poems with emphasis, and that was very embarrassing to me, but she was always trying to do that. And then when she did this play with a snake sizzler, she grabbed me and I went and bought fabric with her. And, you know, like she just always included me in everything. And then after I had my baby, after I had Sienna, she just made me feel like Sienna, like she made me feel like I was the best mother. You know, she would reenact things, that little scenes that she would watch between Sienna and I, and she'd reenact them over and over and over again. Like she just loved how I explained things to Sienna. But every time we would visit her, she would be, I just love how you told Sienna, don't touch the window, don't bang on the window. Slowly and gently. And she just made me feel like I was doing the right thing, even though I know I made a lot of dumb mistakes as a parent. But she loved it. My mouth is really dry. Anyway, and then when Rosemary moved to Santa Fe, I would take her out for drives once in a while, and even if she didn't remember my name, she always remembered my face, and she loved it. And even when I was in phases where I hated my face, she loved it. I just loved her for that. You know, like she never once ever made me feel bad. Like she always, you know, put me up. She always made me feel good. And I love Rosemary so much. So thanks.
Right. Are we almost out of time? Okay. Maybe 3 more? Three? Okay, 3.
I'm not the boss. Yes, she is.
Somebody has to be the boss, and I believe it's you.
You're the boss.
So we have time for 3 more, and then I'm sure we'll all tell stories as we come back and over food, etc., because there's no end of story.
Yeah, I'm a shorty. That's where Rosemary and I differed. Me too. Yeah, you too. Well, Rosemary and Stan were the first people I met here. 1977, I was coming through, visiting friends Dennis and Deborah Larkins, and who don't live here any longer. And we took to each other right away. In fact, I started working and making garlic ristras. And that was how I supported myself for a few years. And then Rosemary started writing these plays. And I am a set designer. So, of course, we would have to go get cardboard, and we grab the paintbrushes and rollers, whatever, and we throw them out in the, God, I think we were in the mission building most of the time, or in the school. I think I did 3 plays with her, or 4 in the school. 1, I think, in the mission building. 1 here. The Mad King of Chalupa. We created the Dixon Players in 2007. And then in 2013, created the Dixon, oh my God, drama camp. I'm sitting here looking at Emmett and I'm going. And so we did Mad King of Chalupa, well, from the drama camp. And Rosemary sat in the first row. And I've got a great picture of which I couldn't find of her outside with Sarita, my friend Sarita. And so that was basically it. We did a lot of shows together. We did Sweet Sleep. We made a movie together. We went up to Taos. James, I'm trying to think of the young man who taught how to make movies. So we went to study this, and we worked on some other movies, and then people came down and worked with us, and we created Sweet Sleep. And if you've never seen it, you have the opportunity, if you go on to the Dixon Players website, which is www.dixonplayers.com, you will see the full, almost 1 hour of Sweet Sleep, where both Rosemary and I act against one another. And I think it's the only major argument we ever had in our times of working together, was because she wrote the script, then we both directed, and I did editing. And I had an argument about a turd in the toilet. And it was something I had said that came out into the script that she never would let go of. The turd in the toilet. So you have to see the movie if you haven't seen it, because you will go, why are they talking about a turd in the toilet? Why has half of Dixon come out to see a turd being buried in the backyard? So that's my time. Rosemary.
Okay, we have 2 more, so come on up. 1, 2. Okay, you're set.
Hi, all you divine people. Rosemary made me feel so divine. That's a word she used all the time, and we all feel divine because of her. So much gratitude that she gave me that beautiful gift. A few more gifts that I want to talk about. One of the first times I met her, it was at this really intense final architectural thesis review. And one of our dear friends was presenting some of the most exquisite drawings. And it was such a well-done thesis. And I know there's a lot of architecture and landscape architecture peeps here, but it's very intense. It's a high stress moment. And everyone was silent, and there's total deference to all of the professors. And part of the critique, this one very jerky professor was reaming this project for no good reason at all. And Rosemary just took her little pamphlet and like slapped him on the head 3 times. And she said, no, 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 you bastard. Or she may have called him an ass or something, or maybe both. And she just said, this is ridiculous. These children have been working their butts off, you know, so hard. How dare you? You know, I just thought, this woman is so awesome. I love you. And she just broke that sort of barrier that is just ridiculous that we have in academia. And I just will forever love her for that. And another thing that I so appreciate is I made it sort of a pilgrimage to come out here every time I had a baby. And you know, in the wake of the sleepiness and dealing with the lack of sleep. And every single one of them, and they're all 3 here, dipped their feet in the beautiful river. And she would find a special rock that would fit in their little hands just for them. And then we'd go back to your house and dry off and get naked in your bed. Sorry, Stan. She loved babies. She loved naked babies. And there are always babies in her world, puppies, ducks. I mean, just immense amounts of babies. So I just thank you. And I had the pleasure of being able to hang out with her a lot towards the end. And, you know, she just sang constantly. It was how she communicated. It's how. And I just want to recognize Adam and Katya, because you did such an elegant, beautiful job of pulling her out of that when she would get nervous about missing the train or the plane. You would just talk about where you're going, and you'd say, oh, Mom, the train is tomorrow, and we're gonna go back to Australia, we're gonna go see the sea, and you both were amazing children, and just such gratitude to you. You gave her such a beautiful ending. And so thank you, thank you. I think Karen wants to say something as well.
Sorry. Rosemary was definitely a big part of my life. I remember once when she came over to our house, we had some horses out, and she went to go pet one, and it bit her finger. And she just made this little whoop. And I just remember that and me kind of running away. So embarrassed. And I remember every time, well, I think right after or before she died, she gave me this huge pencil with a koala bear on it. And it was missing the lead, and I couldn't sharpen it with anything. It's too big. And I just remember looking at it, being very disappointed, just staring at it, just thinking, I need to get a sharpener for that. And there's also another thing that was definitely special to me that she gave me.
Lots of treasures.
Lots of little goodies that I definitely remember and still have. It was this glass ball with a flower in it. And I remember it being on my stump and the light shining right through it. And it was burning little holes in my stump. And my parents walked in, what's that smell? And I just remember whenever I smell that, oh, it's Rosemary's little glass ball she gave me. So I just like to thank Katya and Adam, sorry, for everything, and you guys are really good.
So there really is no last, and there's really no way to put a pause on all of this. So I hope that after this, we'll continue to just share stories together around for as long as we need to.
Hi, everybody. Rob Stout.
How's it sound? That's better. Cool. As you know, Rosemary was not shy. And when I think of the most important part of her desire to share herself with others is to touch people in their heart. And to create that, she was gifted with that extra energy that many people didn't have, but she could share that with them. Didn't expect to be so emotional, but I've so appreciated the way she gave love. She just created a space out in front of her for people to be alive. So, thank you.
Thanks to Rosemary for being here with us. She loved this event. And she's sorry she didn't cook all the food, but she approves. So may we all just continue to take the world in our arms as she has taught us. And do you want to say anything before we go to the next phase of this? So.
This is like minor, but important. If you could please grab a chair and take it with you outside, that would be awesome.
Please take a chair and take it outside. Thank you.
I just want to say hello to everyone. And I'm sorry we couldn't hear all of your stories too. And I wish you could join us for beer and wine and lasagna and cakes. But I will make a point to see all of you in the future, the near future. Oh, and the Australians, Jay and I are hoping to come, maybe Adam and Rachel, in December to scatter her ashes in the ocean. Love you all so much. Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Love you, Katya.
Lots of love, Katya.